Yamunatira Vanacharya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Shayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Prabhupada Asadhara Satushi Shriman His Divine Grace Shalasi Bhaktivedanta Smaraj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Gaur Premanande Hariwal glorious to the sound devotees all glorious to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga Om Agyanatamanandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksuramilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaham Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Pradjana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Visakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanshena Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishubhanu Sutadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakapa Tribhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pranityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 8, Chapter 19. The Lord begs charity from Bali Maharaj, text number 42. Ataitad Purnam Abhyatman Yatscha Netyanritam Vachaha Sarvam Netyanritam Bruyat Saduskriti Swasan Mritaha Taitat Purnam Abhyatmam Yatscha Netyanritam Vachaha Sarvam Netyanritam Bruyat Saduskriti Swasanritaha Nirapuram Yatnam Yatscha Netyanritam Vachaha Sarvam Netyanritam Bruyat Sadiskriti Sanvataha Ladies. Atta, therefore, etat, that, purnam, completely, abhyatman, drawing the compassion of others by presenting oneself as always poverty-stricken. Yat, that, cha, also, na, not, iti, thus, anritam, false, vachaha, words, sarvam, completely, na, not, iti, thus, anritam, falsity, bruyat, who should say, saha, such a person, diskriti, infamous, shvasan, while breathing, or while alive, mritaha, is dead or should be killed. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Therefore, the safe course is to say no, although it is a falsehood. Do we have some way of keeping this up so? Could someone adjust it? It protects one completely. It draws the compassion of others towards oneself. It gives one full facility to collect money from others for oneself. Nevertheless, one should always plead that he has nothing. He is condemned, for he is a dead. Nevertheless, if one always pleads that he has nothing, he is condemned, for he is a dead body while living, or while still breathing, he should be killed. Anyhow, Bhagavatam is quite exciting. Purport. Beggars should always present themselves as possessing nothing. And this may be very good for them, because in this way they are ensured of not losing their money and of always drawing the attention and compassion of others for the sake of collection. But this is also condemned. One purposely continues this begging, professional begging, he's supposed to be dead while breathing. According to another interpretation, such a man of falsity should be killed while still breathing. The Vedic injunction in this regard is as follows. If one continuously poses himself as possessing nothing and collects money by begging, he should be killed. Shainam tadraiva hanyat. Text 43. In flattering a woman to bring her under control, in joking in a marriage ceremony, in earning one's livelihood, when one's life is in danger, protecting cows in Brahminical culture, or protecting a person from an enemy's hand, falsity is never condemned. Chapter 20, Bali Maharaj surrenders the universe. Shri Shukavacha Balir Evam Griha Pati Kula Charyena Bhashitaha Tushnim Bhutva Shanam Rajan Navachava Hito Gurum. Translation. And Sri Shukadeva Goswami said, O King Parikshit, when Bali Maharaj was thus advised by his spiritual master, Sukracharya, his family priest, He remained silent for some time, and then after full deliberation, he replied to his spiritual master as follows. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur remarks that Bali Maharaj remained silent at a central critical point. How could he disobey the instructions of ISKCON, his spiritual master? Is the duty of such a sober personality as Bali Maharaj to abide by the orders of his spiritual master immediately, as the spiritual master had advised. But Bali Maharaj also considered that ISKCON was no longer to be accepted as a spiritual master, for he had deviated from the duty of a spiritual master. According to Shastra, the duty of the Guru is to take the disciple back home, back to Godhead. If he is unable to do so and instead hinders the disciple in going back to Godhead, he should not be a Guru. Gururna Sasyad 5:18 Bhagavatam. One should not become a Guru if he cannot enable his disciple to advance in Krishna consciousness. The goal of life is to become a devotee of the Lord Krishna so that one may be freed from the bondage of material existence. Tyaktva-deham punarjanma naiti mamiti sorjana. The spiritual master helps the disciple attain this stage by developing Krishna consciousness. Now, ISKCON had advised Bali Maharaj to deny the promise to Vamanadev. Under the circumstances, therefore, Bali Maharaj thought that there would be no fault if he disobeyed the order of his spiritual master. He deliberated on this point. Should he refuse to accept the advice of his spiritual master, or should he independently do everything to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead? It took some time. Therefore it is said, Tushnim Bhutva Shinam Rajan Na Uvachavasito Gurum. After deliberating on this point, he decided that Lord Vishnu should be pleased in all circumstances, even at the risk of ignoring the Guru's advice to the contrary. Anyone who is supposed to be a Guru, but who goes against the principle of Vishnu Bhakti, cannot be accepted as a Guru. If one has falsely accepted such a Guru, one should reject him. Such a Guru is described as follows. Mahabharata, Ud Yoga 179 to 525. Gurur apyava lipsatasya karya karyam ajanata utpada pratipannasya parityago vidiyate. Srila Jiva Goswami has advised that such a useless Guru, a family priest acting as a Guru, should be given up, and that the proper bona fide Guru should be accepted. Sat karma nipuno vipra mantra tantra visharada avaishnavo gururnasyad avaishnava swabato guru. A scholarly Brahmin expert in all subjects of Vedic knowledge is unfit to become a spiritual master without being a Vaishnava. But if a person born in the family of a lower caste is a Vaishnava, he can become a spiritual master. The Padma Purana. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhaktivedanta Swami Taramane Namaste Saraswatam Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatyade Satarane. Although this is probably the most basic point, well, one of the basic points in Krishna consciousness, is probably one of those points which is either not understood or not accepted very clear, or not understood clearly and not completely accepted. But if we understand this point, our spiritual advancement becomes very quick, very rapid. Krishna makes this point in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita in the 4th chapter when he mentions Imam Vishvate Yogam Praktavanaham Avyam Vivishvan Manave Praha Manur Ishvakave Bravi. Theoretically, one who reads the Bhagavad Gita should accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And as Prabhupada said, in such a submissive spirit, one will be able to begin to understand the Bhagavad Gita. Otherwise, one is simply wasting his time reading Bhagavad Gita. On the other hand, it is also said that in order to advance in spiritual life, one has not only accept Krishna, have faith, Sweta Upanishad, what's the first word of that? Faith, equal faith in the spiritual master in Krishna. Yasya deve para bhaktira, tata deve tata guru, tasyaite prakrita prakshante samahatmanaha. So one should have equal faith in both the spiritual master and Krishna. So what does that mean? Is it blind faith? That I got initiated by someone, and whatever he says is perfect? And what is perfect anyhow? What does it mean to say something perfect, to be perfect? So these are questions we have to understand. If we don't understand what perfection means, we won't know who's perfect. So when Prabhupada was asked that, what is perfection? He said perfection is how one is spreading Krishna consciousness. Bhakti samshanat. It is said in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that Advaita Acharya, he was Bhakti samshanat. He was an Acharya because he was effectively spreading Krishna consciousness. So the perfection is to be completely engaged in spreading Krishna consciousness. And what is that possible? When is that possible? Well, Prabhupada writes at the end of the 5th verse of the Nectar of Instruction that the first qualification of someone who's perfect is he's assimilated the knowledge in the Bhagavad Gita. And therefore he accepts the Bhagavad Gita in its entirety and doesn't accept portions of it and reject other portions. Second qualification is that he knows, he's experienced or has realized that there's no difference between Krishna and his name. Third qualification is that he's realized his spiritual identity. And the fourth qualification, he has no other business in his life other than to distribute Krishna consciousness to others. Such a person should be accepted as an Uttama Adhikari, and everything one has should be offered to him. Especially the brahmacharis who collect, they should offer everything to such a spiritual master. So does that mean that if one takes up the role of giving initiation, he automatically has assimilated the entire Bhagavad Gita? Before he was just an ordinary devotee, didn't even know, had read the Bhagavad Gita twice. And now he gave his first initiation, and the Supreme Spirit entered into him, and everything was revealed as the disciples threw the grains into the fire, that everything was being revealed to him by the Supreme Lord. And then he realized that when he was chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna would personally appear before him after the ceremony. He realized he was a gopi. His 11 qualities were revealed to him. Finally found out what his real name was in the spiritual world. And at the same time, everything else he just put aside after that, and every motion, every word, every thought, every vision he had was just to spread Krishna consciousness. Is that what happens? It's what some people think happens. But I think a reasonable person could understand, and by experience we can understand it's not what happens. So that's the service of the spiritual master. That's actually the platform where one should accept disciples. And if one is, as Prabhupada writes to Janardhan in 1968, Janardhan from Canada, that the words of the spiritual master are as good as Shastra. Just like Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur, he was an Uttama-Adhikari. He was on the same level as Srimati Radharani. Srimati Radharani, she takes even her subordinates as her superiors. She appreciates them, their service, even more than she appreciates her own service to Krishna. So that's the level of Uttama-Adhikari. Complete appreciation and devotion. Not something you can artificially try to imitate. But such a person, that's who we place into our heart, because they're connected with it. That's actually the Acharya and disciple succession. Without placing the Acharya within our heart and connecting with Krishna through the Acharya system, then our connection with Krishna is just an imagination. Therefore, Prabhupada writes in the Nectar of Devotion that at the time of initiation, the actual connection with Krishna is made. I'm sorry too. What does that mean? That as soon as we throw grains, and then Krishna immediately grabs our arm and we're connected? No, we're connected through our disciple succession of acharyas. And if we take initiation and we don't connect with our acharyas, then the initiation is just a theory. And how do we connect with the acharyas? We serve their instructions. Without serving the instructions, then Prabhupada writes the same Nectar of Devotion, then our initiation had no meaning, has no real value. So, what does that mean? Does that mean that everyone, only those who are Mahabhagavats should give him initiation? Mahabhagavats, of course, generally they descend to the Madhyama Adhikari platform, and on that platform they give initiation because they can teach on that platform. On the other hand, Prabhupada writes in the same letter to Janardhan in 1968, he says there are others who are not on the level of Uttama Adhikari, but they're strictly followers. They can also give initiation. But what kind of initiation can they give? So Prabhupada explains that later on in different places, what that means, the initiation. So he mentions that in Nectar of Instruction also. He said that one should first understand the following paragraph after what I said, that if one gives, well, in the same paragraph, he said if one collects money from the brahmacharis or others, when one is not on that Uttama Adhikari platform, that's called imitation, and he's going to fall down. At least his devotional service will slacken. So what does that mean? It means that not that one should not accept donations, because sannyasis, Brahmins, they can accept donations. But that in our society, everything is meant to be utilized in the Sankirtan mission under the guidance of the authority structure. In other words, if one gives initiation, there's no place for him in the authority structure other than spiritual authority. But from the managerial point of view, collecting money is part of the management system to be utilized in the service of spreading the Sankirtan movement. Therefore, one should not collect money and then spend it independently of the authority structure. Of course, the authority structure should have a clear vision, mission and purpose for the spreading the Sankirtan movement, and even a vision how they're going to do it. So everything one accepts on behalf as initiating guru, it's doing so on behalf of the society. Just like ordinarily a priest in the Catholic Church, when he gets a donation from the members of his church, then he's supposed to give it to the church. He doesn't keep it for himself and make his own projects. He's simply a representative of the church. And similarly, one giving initiation into the movement, he's a representative of the whole movement. He's not an independent player, authority. Now then, Prabhupada writes that one should have discrimination to understand where everyone is at on the levels of either Uttama Adhikari, Madhyama Adhikari, or Kanistha Adhikari. And one should also know one's own position, for the sake of being able to properly exchange the 6 loving exchanges between devotees. In other words, our spiritual advancement depends upon our exchanging loving exchanges according to the 6 principles in the Nectar of Instruction, verse number 4. Tadati pratigrinati guyam akiti prichati pungdebo jayate chaiva shadvidam pratilakshana. Offering gifts in charity, accepting charitable gifts, revealing one's mind in confidence, and inquiring confidentially, offering prasad and accepting prasad. These are the 6 symptoms of love exchanged by one devotee or another. So, offering gifts in charity, when we offer gifts in charity to the spiritual master on behalf of to spread the Sankirtan movement, he has to utilize that energy according to the instructions of his authorities. He can't utilize it independently. That even the spiritual masters in the movement, they're under the authority structure. Not only the GBC, but even the temple president is more an authority in the management structure than the initiating guru is. If he doesn't do that, then he's acting outside of authorization. Of course, in our society, it's so unclear what's authorization that who can blame anyone? Because no one knows, hardly anyone knows what's going on. On the other hand, revealing one's mind in confidence, unless one is actually authorized as an Uttama Adhikari, certified by the GBC as an Uttama Adhikari, then one should not take one's opinion or one's realization or present it as final as the actual reality. Now it's up to the GBC to be discriminating and give authorization to everyone. Well, first of all, it's up to the GBC to give a vision, a humble vision. Neither the GBC should present itself as the absolute truth when doesn't know the absolute truth, hasn't met Krishna personally. Then it's just pretension also. And people will realize that they're also pretending. And if we're pretending, then how can people have faith in what we're doing? There are 6 defects of a conditioned soul. One of them is imperfect senses. The other is the tendency to commit mistakes. And the third is to be an illusion. And the fourth is to cheat. Now, if we know we're an illusion, or we don't know we're an illusion, when we're an illusion, that's even worse. If we don't even know what committing mistake means, to act outside of Krishna's desire is a mistake. That's our mistake that got us into the material world in the first place. And the third thing is to commit mistakes, be an illusion, and to, not cheating is the fourth. Illusion, mistakes, and imperfect senses. To not see Krishna everywhere all the time means our senses are imperfect. Or not to see things in relationship to Krishna means that we're also have imperfect senses. Not to understand how Krishna is the controller of everything and see everything else as a manifestation of Krishna's energy means imperfect senses. So that's all right, because the role of a teacher is not necessarily that he has to have perfect senses, he has to be free from illusion, and he has to never commit a mistake, never deviate from devotional service. No, if one repeats the message of Krishna in disciple succession, then he's acting as a teacher. Otherwise, who's going to sit up here and give a class? Unless you want to pretend that you're an Acharya or something, and then people realize that you're a phony, you're a false Acharya. So that's not the quality, the disqualification is when you're cheating. When you're cheating others, claiming that you have perfect senses, claiming that you're never an illusion, claiming that you never commit mistakes. That's cheating when you're not on that platform. Therefore, it nullifies whatever good you can say or your example, because one should not listen to a cheater. Because everything's so confusing in our society, who knows what's going on. Anyhow, this is more or less, we're trying to define things according to my understanding. Now, if we have to understand our position, we have to be honest. We can't pretend that we're outside of the bodily concept of life when we overeat. I present myself as the great Acharya, and then next comes Vishadam, I'm an anxiety about something and overeat. What kind of Acharya is that? It's pretension. We should present ourselves as we actually are, because actually our goal is bhakti, is love. That's our perfection. And if someone has some defect and they admit it, they're humble, that's the beginning of appreciating them. Just like our dog. If we had a dog, I don't have a dog. But if we had a dog, then the dog is not exactly the most elevated personality in the universe. But if it humbly serves us, then we love the dog, but in spite of all its defects. So if someone is honest and humble, then they're much more likely to invoke our actual love than if someone is simply a pretender. So they can actually help us advance by their very attitude of humility and not pretending that they're perfect when they're not perfect. And if they're simply trying to repeat the message of Krishna in disciple succession, then we can understand that this is something valuable to receive and something we should try to appreciate. But they should acknowledge that they're connected with the Acharya by serving the instructions of the Acharya to the best of their ability, and not take an absolute platform that whatever they say is perfect when they're not perfect. But they can simply claim that they're repeating the message of the perfect person, and the message is perfect to the best of their understanding. Therefore, that makes room for other opinions, and not for thinking that putting someone on a pedestal when they're, is a perfect person, and every word, every gesture, every activity that they do is perfect and should be exemplified and should be followed as a perfect example. No, we have our perfect examples. They're in the Shastra. The Acharyas are perfect examples. And those who are not perfect, they should say that, I'm trying the best I can to fulfill the orders of my spiritual master, and I'm trying to repeat the message in disciple succession, but one should be open to better examples than I have, or even more clear instructions than I have. So that's an honest explanation. And therefore, the next thing is that a spiritual master, Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur, has explained to us that our spiritual an Uttama-adhikari should be seen by his ability to make others into Vaishnavas. So does that mean the more disciples I initiate, then the more I should be recognized as an Uttama-Adhikari? Well, Durvasa Muni had, 50,000 followers? Does that make him an Uttama-Adhikari? When he tried to kill Ambrish Maharaj? Was that part of his transcendental Leela? No, the number of followers is not. It's the quality of the followers. It's the quality of the spiritual master. Bhrigu Muni tried to figure out on behalf of the sages who's actually the supreme by testing them, who would actually be tolerant. His father Brahma was not tolerant when there was some disrespect. Lord Shiva wasn't tolerant when there was some disrespect. Vishnu was tolerant. Not only that, but when Bhrigu Muni kicked him in the chest, Lord Vishnu came off the bed that he was lying on and started to massage Bhrigu Muni's feet, being afraid that maybe when Bhrigu Muni's feet hit his hard chest, it had hurt his soft lotus feet. So Lord Vishnu started to massage his feet, asking for forgiveness for not coming, and greeting Bhrigu Muni at the door, and asking Bhrigu Muni to stay on his Vaikuntha planet as a Brahmin in order to purify it. So that's called humility and tolerance. So Bhrigu Muni immediately understood that this is this is Vishnu, this is God. And a Vaishnava means one who has the same qualities as Lord Vishnu. So that's Bhaktivedanta Thakur, the one who's able to at least inspire people to come to that platform of a true Vaishnava. Now, Prabhupada said, a neophyte devotee and an intermediate devotee can also accept disciples. But such disciples should be on the same level, and it should be understood he cannot help them advance very well due to his insufficient guidance. Therefore, Prabhupada stressed cooperation, not imitation. He didn't stress that he never appointed 11 zonal acharyas. That was a complete concoction. That was uncovered, discovered, nor did he appoint anyone as being an acharya of our society. Anyone, 11 or 100 or 1 or 2, none. What he did say when he was asked who will be the next leader by some members of the government in Maharashtra, I think one of them was anyhow, 2 prominent figures in the government, in the Indian government. He said, I'm not going to appoint anyone as the next leader. He said, all my disciples will be the next leader. As much as they follow, as much as they've understood and follow, they'll be the next leader. That's 1970, at the end of October 1977. So there's putting up leaders, not according to how much they're following, or how much they've understood Krishna consciousness and exhibiting it, and putting them as the leaders. That's disconnection from our Acharya system. And without being connected with our Acharya system, we don't make any advancement, spiritual advancement. That's not possible. It's when we put into our hearts when we follow their first of all, we put their instructions in our heart, we assimilate it, we remember them, we apply them in our lives, and then they reveal themselves within our heart, and we experience transcendental ecstasy, then we make spiritual advancement. It's the attitude of the acharyas of humble service to their acharya, which goes all the way back to the 6 Goswamis, to the Panchatattva, to Lord Krishna's pastimes with his devotees in Goloka Vrindavan. That's what brings us to the platform of Krishna consciousness, that humble service attitude. And without that, spiritual life is just an imagination. It's another type of material life with a different dress and a different address, perhaps. So, it is not that a neophyte devotee or an intermediate devotee can't give initiation, but it should be they should take the proper role. And if they don't know what the proper role is, then the society everyone gets bewildered. It's not necessarily their fault, it's just that we have a society where everyone is bewildered, practically speaking. To taking up the roles properly, to assimilate the knowledge properly, so that we can more effectively, it's not that effectively we're not spreading Krishna consciousness, or devotees are not advancing in some way, but we can more effectively, the more we understand the attitude of devotional service and how to exchange these loving exchanges properly, then the more we make advancement, that's all. So those who take the role of more advanced than we are, they can be accepted as guru according to the 6th verse of the Nectar of Instruction. But they should also understand their position. And whatever position they're on, they should know that they're not the only gurus. That Krishna is in everyone's heart. And everyone is guru according to how much they've understood the messages of the Acharyas coming to disciple succession. And as much as they followed, they've understood and can repeat that message and live that example to help others. Everyone. So therefore, those who are taken as authorities, they should point out, they should instruct their disciples how to perceive who else is their authority, so they can exchange loving properly, follow their instructions and example, how to cooperate with those on the same level, and how to assist those on a lower level to come up to at least the level that they're on. Therefore, there are superiors, there are always equals, and there are always those we can help, inferiors. And with that vision, we can actually go ahead in Krishna consciousness. But if we take someone as superior, absolutely superior, and then someone else in our society takes someone else as absolutely superior, and we have a whole society divided up between everyone, 150 different groups where there are leaders, the absolute superior, and no one knows what the aim of our movement is to cooperate. In other words, if everyone was absolutely superior, then they'd absolutely say the same message, because there's only one absolute superior, that's Krishna. And the message of Krishna is in everyone's heart. He's trying to give us the message. And if everyone was absolutely superior, then everyone would give absolutely the same message. And if everyone's not giving the absolute same message, there may be someone, or some of them, or many of them, or whatever, who are not absolutely superior, because they're not giving the absolute message, the same message as Krishna is giving from within the heart. And he's the actual spiritual master we're trying to become an instrument for. So, if we acknowledge those who are superior and we serve them with love and trying to do it with love and devotion, then our superiors, they'll teach us how to love others. And therefore the whole message will be how to serve with respect, humility, and appreciation others who are actually superior to us, based upon how much they've understood Srila Prabhupada's instructions and example from this in the disciple succession. And therefore everyone will have Prabhupada as the basic principle and will be appreciated as much as they've understood and followed his instructions and example as a representative of the entire disciple succession. Then we'll actually have harmony within our society. Otherwise, either it's the disciples are misunderstanding what the message of the guru is, the initiating gurus or the shiksha gurus in our society, or the shiksha gurus and diksha gurus in our society don't understand the message themselves, and therefore have created confusion to some degree or another in their presentation of Krishna consciousness and the process of becoming it. So the whole aim is loving exchanges. at least one should respect within one's mind those who are chanting Hare Krishna, although sometimes we may not intimately associate with them. One should cooperate with those who are actually who have taken initiation, who have understood what the succession is, and are following it by serving the deities and by serving the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inside the temple and outside the temple. And those who are interested in the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to raise the fallen conditioned souls to the platform to bring them back to the spiritual world or try to assist them. So those are loving exchanges, and they're all done on the basis of the service to our Acharya and disciple succession. Therefore, the most important thing in our society is to establish in a realistic way what Srila Prabhupada's position is. Without understanding Prabhupada's exalted position as a perfect devotee, and perfect doesn't mean, as Prabhupada said, he never forgot a verse, or he was always awake, he never slept. No, perfection means every activity, every word he said was simply to serve his spiritual master and distributing Krishna consciousness to others. That Prabhupada had realized his spiritual identity. He had assimilated the knowledge in the Bhagavad Gita and other literatures perfectly. He had realized the spiritual master. He experienced that there's no difference between Krishna and his name. His every activity was simply to spread Krishna consciousness. Now, at least if we don't accept that theoretically, then ISKCON, which has its founder-Acharya, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, we're in the wrong movement. We can't accept theoretically that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the goal of life is to achieve Him, and if we can't accept theoretically that we do it through the instructions, the books of Srila Prabhupada, and his example, if we think he was an ordinary conditioned soul like we are, maybe a little bit more exalted, just like sometimes people think Krishna was an ordinary conditioned soul, maybe a little bit more powerful than they were. If we don't accept Prabhupada, at least theoretically, and read his books and follow them, and judge everything according to his example and standards, then we're wasting our time in this movement. It's unclear what ISKCON actually is, what the movement is. So I'll stop there, and maybe we have some questions or comments. Try to be uncontroversial as possible. Yes.
I joined here in the 1980s, and it was during the zonal Acharya system. We were worshipping that Acharya just there on Vyasa like Prabhupada's, on the same level of worship as Prabhupada. And the general concept was that that person was Uttam Mahabhagavat, liberated. And the preaching in Australia, it was very successful at the time. Like, we had 30 brahmacharis here, all Western people, and in Sydney there was 50 brahmacharis. And you saw it all. You were there from the very beginning. You saw the whole thing develop, and it was like that all over the world. That where the Acharya, the zonal Acharyas were worshipped, the local preaching was very successful.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on that in terms of, what's your perception of that? Was it successful, or,
Where are all those brahmacharis? It's like you go out and distribute a book, and you tell the person, what kind of work do you do? Well, I'm an electrical engineer. Well, perfect, that's what this book is all about. Take it home and read it. You'll become a perfect electrical engineer. How much is it? We'll just give everything you have. They take it home with them. What? Dharma Shedre, Kuru Shedre. These people are rascals. So your preaching was successful. You got the Lakshmi, you distributed the book, and the person hates the movement for the rest of his life. So is that success?
Well, in some ways, our movement was a lot more well known
Sure, and now it's well known. Well, after it was exposed who these perfect persons are. So what? People are known. They know. Somebody, you read the newspapers, you know what's going on right now let me think about where it's going on. In Israel, what's going on in Ukraine. So what? What's the difference? What's the value of knowing those things? Do you take up the process? Some people go and fight in these areas because they find out, they get enthusiastic. But are we going to fight right now in Ukraine after reading what's going on there, or fight in Israel? No, it's a waste of time. It's just like watching a boxing match. Spectators. We're not interested in spectators. We're interested in people actually dedicating their lives in the service of Krishna consciousness, devotional service. That's what we're interested in. And if someone takes up the process and later on feels that they got cheated, then is that progress? It's going to take them lifetimes to come back to Krishna consciousness. We spoil their devotional lives by our cheating. So if we keep on not acknowledging that we made a mistake and keep on pretending, then we're rascals, that's all. Just keep on covering it over. Then we're rascals, that's all. We're not accomplishing anything. We'll be like the other societies who've done similar, and they've just disappeared. Because they're cheating. People don't want to be cheated. They don't want to spend their energy promising one thing and then getting nothing in return. Yes?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, the other day you gave the example of one devotee was distributing a book on airport, and he went inside and didn't give the change. You may remember that episode. And Prabhupada says business is cheating.
No, that was Bhadra in the spiritual sky. Yeah. That he got some money for selling some spiritual sky incense, and he said, I'll come back and I'll give you the change for the bill you gave, and he never came back. And Prabhupada looked at me, because I was shocked, and he said, business means cheat, and Prabhupada started to chuckle. It's not that he approved of it, he just didn't want me to be so disturbed at that time.
So whoever took the spiritual sky or incense could think, oh, these people are cheaters.
That's right. Therefore, spiritual sky collapsed after some time. Because you can't. Prabhupada said, if you're going to want to catch the big fish, then don't get wet. Little cheating, for you we make no progress, we make no profit. Little thing is ISKCON was saying here, but not this big cheating. Prabhupada, he didn't approve of those things. He said, if you do that, then it will spoil our reputation. We're supposed to be Brahmins. We're supposed to be honest, one of the qualities. If the public finds out we're dishonest, then our preaching will be nullified. People will not accept what we say. They have to accept, at least theoretically, based upon our good qualities, that we're speaking the truth. And if they think we're cheaters, then they won't accept anything we're saying. They won't have any opportunity, because they have to develop some faith to apply the process. Krishna doesn't reveal himself just because you say Hare Krishna. You have to develop faith in the people who are giving you those instructions, on their experience. But if it turns out to be cheaters, then people will have no faith and they won't take up the process at all. We're just nullifying our preaching by such activities. Anything else? Yes. Don't worry, even if you say something controversial, you'll still get prasadam today. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the nice class. Maharaj, you had mentioned how to take initiation, we should have the ability to follow the instructions of our spiritual master completely. So how do we understand that we're ready to take initiation? Is it like when we have the ability to completely follow the instructions? Or even if we don't have the ability to do, like, follow the instructions, will the spiritual master bestow their mercy upon us so that we can follow it?
Well, there are different spiritual masters and they have different types of mercy to give. So it's not a guarantee, it's not a blank, the spiritual master is one in that sense, and that they all have an equal ability to bestow their mercy. On the other hand, there has to be some qualification of the disciple. As Prabhupada writes in the Bhagavad Gita, blind following and absurd inquiries are condemned. One should not only hear submissively, one should get a clear understanding through submission, service, and inquiry. In other words, unless we have enough faith by experience that Krishna is, at least theoretically, that Krishna is the Supreme, and at least theoretically that my spiritual master is his representative, then one should not take initiation. And that's one thing. Second thing is, unless I'm actually agree I'm going to follow these principles for the rest of my life, unless we're convinced we're going to do it, we should not cheat. When we say we're going to do it, it should be an honest decision. We should actually have some period of testing ourselves and see whether I can make such a commitment to chant 16 rounds and follow the principles for the rest of my life to the best of my ability. We should be convinced I'm going to do it. Otherwise, the vow has no meaning to it if it's taken too lightly.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you very much. Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande.